Welcome back to the channel, guys. Something a little different to begin today's video with. I thought it was interesting considering I was making a video on hidden signals that pump the market every time. This little critter happened to be hidden between the glass door and the security screens of the house. It's a blue-tongue lizard. I don't know whether it's just fat because it's full or it's pregnant, but problem is averted. It's moved away and it's nice and safe in the backyard. But if you've got any questions and comments about it, definitely leave it down below. And I know I've got a lot of international viewers and they often say that anything that comes up in Australia is probably going to kill you with one bite. This little bastard it's not a bastard. He's not poisonous. He's okay. Not venomous, not poisonous, but can bite. With that in mind, let's just kick off today's video with your home of macro cycle analysis. We're going to look at Bitcoin, cryptos, the stock markets, and the real estate cycle today. Oh, and the commodity cycle, as we're seeing a lot of commodities pop off. And if Bitcoin is in fact a commodity for the long run, maybe we also see Bitcoin go pretty ballistic towards the end of the cycle. We have an agenda for today's video. Lots of big things to look at, especially some signals that had shown up at the tops of the market recently back in March. But I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about. I'll get to that in just a moment. Before we kick it off, reminder, it is Black Friday week specials. Make sure you are on the email list and you guys will receive the coupon code for the biggest discounts we have done on TIA Premium and the TIA Indicator Suite. That's that Gann swing indicator that you see, the forward returns tables, the predictive cycles that we use throughout 2023 and 2024 to help us identify where the market is going next. So if that is of interest to you, make sure you do click that top link. All you gotta do is chuck in your name, email address, tick one of these, tick this, and subscribe. You'll get it ASAP. Okay, so let's start off with the macro. We saw a pretty strong end to last week for the S&P 500, and now with the opening of the futures session, it's also up again. We're at 6,015 for the S&P 500. But if there is any sort of correction, as we were looking at a 3-day signal last week, because we saw that from the peak, basically the all-time high, if there is any sort of correction, I don't think there is really anything to stress about while it remains above this low here. So that's 5,700 points. Then you also have the 50% level, that's down at 5586, so call it 5600 points. And then you even have this low back here at 54. So many support levels on the way down, even the previous old tops as well, which line up very well with that 5700 point level. I don't think it's anything to stress about until we saw it go, well, if it actually got any worse and got into this low. So this is the call that I've got here from roughly around this point, late August, September. This low is most likely in. This is the low, okay? So August, anything above that, things are still on track. Also for the NASDAQ, it's having a climb back here, back above those previous tops, but still just short of the 11th of July. So pretty much doing similar things as the S&P. The Dow Jones, can you believe it? Is at a new all-time high before the trading session that begins tonight. So it's a new all-time high price. We're going to have to adjust our 50% tools, but we'll do that tomorrow for tomorrow's stream. The Russell 2000, the smallest 2,000 companies in the US, is also bouncing back, had a strong week for the end of last week, getting close to those tops again. Hasn't broken them yet, but getting back towards it. And of course, with this movement to the upside, the volatility index has also dropped off. Lower highs continue to form, so good signs for the bull market. That's what I'm looking at here for the macro cycle. Also for the macro cycle is our Home Builders ETF. You guys are familiar with this. It's your 18.6 year cycle. This is 14 years. That's a 14-year line. So if you're wondering why this little yellow circle hasn't been moving every single video, it's because this period is 7 years. If you can break this down into 365 days multiplied by 7, well then yeah, you're going to see probably like a pixel move every video, if that. So there's a bit of time to go here till the peak. We're looking roughly 18 to 24 months into that top. And this is a good signal to let us know that things are still on track. Home Builders ETF, real estate cycle, the market is still seeing more profits come into home builders. How do home builders make their money? Well, real estate prices are going up. Land values are going up. It's still on track here. Now, another thing that has continued to perform pretty well while the stock market or the US stock markets have been down are the smaller economies around the world. Australia being one of those, new all-time highs. Today, guys, we got a new all-time high last Tuesday, and today we just got another new all-time high. The Canadian market, 2 new all-time highs, Thursday, Friday, crushing through. The top 50 in Europe, trying to rebound here, get back to that 50% level, and it's been led by the UK. Big movements ending last week, Thursday and Friday, and the UK has opened for Monday. So basically the pre-hour session, you have the pit session and you have the pre-hour session, and they're open. They're basically up again. Germany also leading the charge here, getting very close back to the previous old all-time highs. France is the laggard here. If we're just comparing those three, it's still close to that August low, but has not broken it. For the Dutch viewers, you guys, we've also seen the Dutch stock market beginning to bounce back here. It's sort of similar to France at those lows, but at least it's looking a little stronger. And China, it hit the 50%, has dropped away for now. So this is this big money pumping that came in through late September and has now started to die off. So we'll have to see where this comes back to, because it's failed now at the 50% level. But of course, what I'm looking for are closes for the weekly chart and the monthly chart. We still have some time here on the monthly for China. Why is it so important? Well, we typically would want to see most of, well, the largest economies continue to do well and more of this money continue to flow into the markets through this later stage of the cycle. So that's China. India has also had a good end to the week. So far has remained above the short-term 50% level. So still good things there. And an interesting one here with the US pushing past the 50% level. Now it's begun trading in the futures market. This is on the monthly chart. This is going to be really interesting as we close out this week, because with a monthly close back under the 50%, it could be a fake out to the upside. So at the moment, it's basically been a 2-year trading range, and this is the highest price the dollar has been in 24 months. So it's basically November 2022. But commodities are still showing strength. Cryptos have obviously been up. I'm not considering those commodities, but we're seeing Bitcoin up over the last couple of months, of course, and also the US dollar has been up. But to more serious commodities that we actually consume, oil has also been up in the short term. So I'll drop this back down to a daily chart. Oil has been up. Gold is trying to recover 2,700, but it is above the 50% for now. Pretty strong move out of the low. Silver also grinding around these low levels, above 50% for now. It is opening up, looking like it wants to move down. But this is the interesting part here. Now you're getting copper showing signs that it wants to put in a low here. It needs to get back above 4.16. Copper is used a lot around the world in the economy. Gas also has been on a very strong run from a few of these lows. Remember last year or 2022, it was the end of the world. Gas prices are too high. Everyone was going to freeze in Europe and no way they could afford their bills. It was all going to come crashing down. Well, gas actually went down and crisis averted. Who would have thought? But now with these commodities, our chocolates and coffee and meat prices are also starting to go up again. So if you're looking at inflation and how prices might start to affect us towards the end of the peak of the cycle, well, maybe we'll start to see some of these prices go up. Look at cocoa futures has continued to climb here after bouncing off the 50% level. Remember, cocoa was all the rage early this year when it basically tripled. It went from like 3,000 or 4,000 points all the way up to 12,000 points and has since support here at around 7,000. So at a 50% pullback and is pushing again. You're also seeing orange juice also heading up, but more importantly for all of us here, coffee. Coffee futures are now at new all-time high prices. Let's throw this on the monthly, or so close to new all-time high prices, but new fresh highs going all the way back to 2011. So we got higher lows here. This could be the breakout pattern that it's waiting for to get back above. So around 320, you would start to see more news on coffee as well. Maybe we'll start to see coffee prices continue to go higher, and you're going to be paying more at bloody Starbucks. All right. So with that in mind, the commodity price is heading up. I'll just touch on this in case anyone is interested in further research for themselves. Check out the Elliot Wave. We're looking at roughly 25 years up, 25 years down, 25 to 30 years up, 25 to 30 years down. We're potentially coming towards the end of one of these waves as well. This is Nikolai Kondratiev. So he was Russian, and the communists in Russia at the time, this was in the early 1900s, did not like what he found out about commodity cycle, which meant the US was going to get stronger through that period. And obviously, we're leading into this peak now, that they did some horrible things to Nikolai. I'll leave that to you guys to research for yourself, but that to me usually speaks some sort of truth. When you're starting to find things that others don't like and it basically works out, there's probably more digging to do there. Okay, so along with the commodity cycle, I brought that up and just showed you how some of those commodities were going up because, well, if Bitcoin is a commodity, if it is acting like a gold, maybe it does happen to continue to hold up during any sort of collapse. Well, we're into the final wave of the Elliot Wave, so the large waves here. Michael's done a massive post up here on X to explain each of the waves. In short, you want to look at the yellow ones here. They're the big cycles, and wave 5 can be the largest one, especially towards the end of the Kondratiev wave, so the end of the commodity cycle. So if we are in that, any of these sorts of corrections that we see along the way, I think will be short-lived compared to what we've seen previously. That could mean days, it could mean weeks, because what we've seen previously is an 8-month consolidation. So we might not be in for something like that moving forward. So any of these sort of corrections, just be a little bit aware that we might see significant fear come back in, but it might not be as bad as this period or how long it was drawn out, in particular from March through to November. And what could be, I guess, holding the market up in the short term is something like this, the USDT dominance that we've been looking at now for several months. You can see the volume is coming in here on this breakdown, but we are back at the diagonal here. You can see the upward sloping diagonal. Each of the previous times it got to this level, there's been a top in BTC. So you could question that maybe there is some sort of top coming in here. I tend to think with all of this background stuff that we've been watching, obviously our 18.6 year cycle, our Kondratiev cycle, our Elliot Wave cycle, that it could be a short-term move, and this could spell a big downside for the USDT dominance, in which case I think a lot of that money might find its way back into Bitcoin and obviously some of the stronger altcoins as well. But I'm not saying that that happens this month or next month. I would love it to, maybe it does, but if we do see this short-term, well, that could be part of the reason. And in the short term, this is on the daily, you can see we've had this small move down to 3.95. The next level we need to break is 3.8, 3.75 to 3.8. And now basically a quick reversal to test the underside. So this is the short term that has been holding the market up. Ideally for all of us macro huge bulls, just hoping to get rich in the next days, well, you probably want to see this thing collapse from this point. Test the lows here and then collapse from there. So basically that was support. Support's been broken. Now the support is coming back to be tested as resistance. It's not confirmed yet, but if it is confirmed, then you want to see this move away relatively quickly and to the downside, which would be good for Bitcoin and those cryptos which are moving at the moment. As for BTC, this is our 8-month grind sideways. So now I'm looking at some of the breakouts and the breakdowns. That was part of the USDT dominance onto the 3-day rule. And you can use this like a 3-bar rule as well. It doesn't have to be days, but I also like to look at it in terms of weeks, maybe even months if you've done the homework, but months can be a little bit long. Nonetheless, let's just start with the days and then I'll show you the weeks here. This was the first signal that we gave back in March, which then held the market down for nearly 8 months. We're not there yet. I've got an arrow here. It's just to draw your attention to that top. But at the moment, this is the longest period at the moment. I mean, it's 2 days, but really it is the longest period since all the way back here, 4th of November, that we've gone on a correction. As crazy as it sounds, I know, but we need to compare the data now to the recent move. Things have slowed. It's not like, are we slowing? It's like it has slowed. Big move out, slowed here, grind up, and it's slowed again. So that is confirmed as it's slowing. Doesn't mean that's the end of the game, but these signals that showed up here on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. And we saw just a lot of reasons why the market should kind of stall out, not collapse, but stall out. They're continuing to show up now. And the time frame that I gave was, I believe it was like 14 days to about 39 days. We're into the 14th day now, and 39 or, into that month period takes you out pretty far actually into the mid-December. Where I got that from was just looking back at these periods here. It's basically just a slow grind up with corrections within that grind. As an example, here is the big move here on the 23rd of October, and until the market basically broke out again to the upside, that was 39 days. Within that, you did have corrections. Top to the bottom there, 8%, 9%, 10%. Maybe it goes to 15. I don't know. I'm not trying to call that. All I'm trying to call here are times where you get this overbought period, and from overboughts, people often expect the market to crash down and fill in gaps, and it's too overbought. It has to be sold off. That's not true at all. It doesn't have to happen like that. And you can get these slow grinds up and then another pop to the upside. And when you think about it, you sort of logically, emotionally, people that don't have trading plans, they think it should come down and it doesn't. And then that screws with their mindset. It screws with their emotions, and then the market pops higher again and they get pissed. They get really pissed off that they weren't able to get in, and then they start making excuses as to why the market didn't do it. Oh, it should have went down, but this happened. It should have went down, but that happened. Markets can remain irrational longer than you or I can remain solvent. These guys that keep trying to short markets that go up, we saw that all through the bull market here, and they get wrecked. So anyway, going on to this time frame here, roughly half of that period, so 14 to 20 days, or going out to this full period here, about 35 to 40 days. So we're into that halfway period right now. There is your 14 days. Now, to the downside in terms of dollars that we're looking for, around 93%, which was the previous swing top, and then the previous swing bottom is about $89,000 if you just want like a round number. So keep an eye on those levels. If it does break down from that, then you would expect further downside, and it could come back to fill in roughly this area here. That's about 85 at 84.5 down to about 77.5. So if the price did start to break down, well, you've got a 6% decline down to 93, and to these lows about 11%. So it's up to you whether you start to fight over a few percent. Is it going to get there? Is it not? That comes down to your trading plan, or if you just want to continue to buy as the market climbs higher in the back of all this strength. And in terms of the strength, we're looking at signals that have shown up each of these times when the market pumps. Now I'm on a weekly chart here, and I've talked about this 3-day signal before, and this has worked out very, very well. We've used it on the US dollar, we've used it on Bitcoin, we've seen it on the S&P 500. Now I'm looking at it on a weekly chart. Okay, so we're changing the time frames here, and you can see the green arrows on top here using the Gann Swing Pro, which is part of the Gann Swing indicator, which you can get a massive discount to if you are on board as a TIA premium member. Again, huge sales on this week because, of course, it is Black Friday. Link in the top of the video description, and then you'll get all of the instructions on how to get all of these indicators. Okay, so in terms of the weekly chart, I'm looking at it here on the total cryptocurrency market cap. I may have said Bitcoin earlier, but this total cryptocurrency market cap. Weekly chart, green arrows on top of the bars. Okay, so we've got a consolidation, and you got a breakout, 1, 2, 3, and the move kept going. So that's a pretty significant pump. At least the feeling at the time, gains are being had. They're being had across altcoins as well through that period, and then it's time to rest and recover. Okay, same thing happened again. Breakout. There's a green, green, green. Big move to the upside. Of course, we plateau from this point. Now we've got a couple of greens here. The big move happened again. This time I only broke out of the double top, but nonetheless, it was enough to get the market going. And yeah, we've seen a pretty big move from that point. And obviously altcoins and memes have also done the same thing. That's 1, 2, 3 examples. Here is the 4th example, breakout from the low, 1, 2, 3, and the market basically paused here, dump in, and then it kept going from that point. So it was enough to break us out of the bear market bottom as well. It's not going to be the same sort of move there because it was a different market at this time. This time here, everyone thought Bitcoin crypto was done. FTX collapsed. It was all over. But this 3 signals, from back here actually, 3 signals was enough to push us out. It flipped us from a bear market to a bull market. So it did its job. It had a very hard move to do, and it did it. You can go back again. 3 greens got us out of the extreme fear of May 2021. I met a lot of you guys on the weekend in September in Sydney, and you've been on the channel since 2020, 2021, and you remember this period here and how the market, it was basically like the game was over. But we also had another altcoin season later on, and for Bitcoin, yeah, it went to a new all-time high. But who knew at the time? You didn't know that's all that was going to happen, but it was enough to push the market out. 1, 2, 3 greens out of the lows. 1, 2, 3 greens into a new all-time high. So 8 examples so far. 9 examples, 10 examples. This one went and broke through a new all-time high. This one here broke out of the COVID crash low. You can see the strength of this type of signal and how it continues to show historically that there is more good times to come. However, short term, you got 2 weeks there, the market did pause. Again, 2-3 weeks here, the market paused. So 3 weeks can be quite a long time, especially when new people are just starting to get into the market. And there are a lot of new people who have just joined over the last few months. And if you are a new person that has joined over the last few months, check out this chart here. We're looking at Bitcoin and which year of the cycle it's in. Just historically speaking, just looking at it over the current history we have and what happens in this sort of, second year moving into the third year of the bull market. Now, something that I put together here, just looking at timeframes from lows. So roughly 1 year is the best time to be in BTC. This time, the second year, more closer to the market, probably the second half of the second year has been a better time to get into alts. And you could argue that it was also a good time to get into alts around the end of the first year, depending on which ones. And then from that point, generally, and I like to say generally because we don't know for sure. No one knows what happens on this side of the screen. We're just trying to layer probabilities on our side to make as much profits as possible. Generally, you're going to see pretty significant moves or better returns on altcoins than you'll see for BTC. BTC has already done hundreds of %, low to the current price, 540%. So basically like a 6x, which is pretty significant. A lot of altcoins possibly won't make 6x this time round. Another strong signal that we're seeing that happens basically every single time out of breakouts is increased volume. Increased volume again, you can see compared to where it was, you got this consolidation and then a breakout. You need to see that on volume, and we have about 6 days to go now for the month. So subscribe to the channel, like this video as well, because I'll have a monthly update coming up for December, and then I'll update the quarterly charts and the 6 monthly charts as well as we then lead into 2025. Things seem to be going relatively well here. Now, with each of these signals, you typically see several months to the upside after these breakouts. This is a monthly chart, therefore you have to wait for the month to end and for the next month to end. It doesn't mean you're going to see every day straight up. And I know, if we saw 1 or 2 days down today or tomorrow, people are going to think, well, that's the opposite. It's down, it's over. The only time I'm going to get concerned with that is if we break down underneath $73,800, because that was the previous all-time high and that was a significant resistance. So if you break under resistance, that's a weak signal. So in the next 6 days, if Bitcoin was to collapse from the current price underneath 73.8, that's a 24% move from its current price, then I would be getting very concerned that this could be like a fake out to the upside. The total breakdown to get underneath that 73 level would be roughly around 26%. Not impossible, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen at this stage, especially as we looked at everything earlier. The macro cycle stuff, the stock markets are up, the commodities are continuing to go up, and we're coming towards the end of the cycle, even though there might be 12, 18, 24 months to go. As for altcoins, well, they've got past their first tipping point, that was 480 billion. Then they got past their second tipping point here, 650 billion. So this is the exclusive TIA, total cryptocurrency market cap, because we can exclude the stable coins from this, whereas the one you normally see, the total 3 here, it includes the stable coins. So in this case, I'm just looking at the chart, which is all of the altcoins, excluding BTC, ETH, and stables, and you can see that it did have resistance at those tops. came back, sat on the tops, and then kept going and had resistance again at exactly now 100% of the entire range that we've just done. So that's the December low up to the March top, projected off this August low. So you can see just how well these, again, extensions work to give you price targets for when some price resistance comes into the market. And that helps you identify whether the coins that you might be in, maybe you're getting a little bit later and you're wondering, why is this thing not going anywhere? Come across and have a look at the total cryptocurrency market cap, and you can identify that, okay, well, the majority of what's happening at the moment might have happened for now, and it just needs some time to pause. Just like it did 2 weeks ago. Came up, hit the level and paused. Came up, over the top of the level, paused for a couple of days, and then took off again. So maybe it needs another couple of days, few days to pause before it can hopefully break through. Now, of course, if it tests it and finds resistance, well, expect the downside. And then from the downside, what do? We look at the 50% levels. So we'll just keep watching to see whether it can maintain above the 600 to around $680 billion level. With that, you've got ETH. Now, I might leave this to tomorrow's video, so make sure you do hit the subscribe button, like the content if you find value from it. Now, this one is showing how ETH can be in a strong position, yet have a ton of negative news happening. And when we see prices, I guess, eventually move to the upside, why people might miss it from that point. So subscribe to that. We've got Solana again for tomorrow, Sui, and XRP. I'll have to get to XRP tomorrow just to show the strength of Bitcoin versus XRP. Much love. Hit the like, subscribe. Black Friday sales coming up this week, and I'll see you guys back here at the next video. Thanks again for joining me on the weekend in Sydney. I had heaps of fun. Sorry if I couldn't get to everyone and have a huge conversation. You can see the hundreds of people that were there, and I managed to keep my voice, which is always a positive for the videos. Thanks again. I'm going to go and deal with the blue tongue lizard in the backyard. Until next time, take care and peace out.